Hey, welcome back to Pathway to Leadership. Tonight we're talking about shut up and listen. Isn't that exciting? I know. Just so you know, I literally had to put peanut butter on my ear for my dog to come up and take that shot. So I'm kind of proud of her. Her name is Ziva. And, well, she didn't really want to participate in getting that thumbnail, but in the end, it all worked out right. So I hope you appreciate that. Working with animals is pretty tough. And I think we do that every day when we go to work, don't we? So glad to see you here. Of course, always, I ask you to hit that thumbs up. Let's send that algorithm a message that, the leaders are in the house, and we want to promote this video as much as possible. So let's get started. Do I have your attention? Shut up and start listening. It's so hard to listen. We always want to have dialogue, more talking. And it's kind of hard because it's kind of an oxymoron. Here I am on camera doing all the talking. I have the chat up. I'm looking at the chat right now, and I hope you all get involved, and I'll stop talking and read what you put in there. But in reality, it is hard. It's hard to stop, fill in the gap of silence, and sit there and just listen. So sometimes you just got to sit there and listen. So on the video this week, I put out there, when your wife or your significant other comes home and they want to vent about their day, are you one of those people that has to fight the urge to try to fix all their problems? Because I know I am. That is one of my weaknesses right there. Every time my wife starts talking about her hard day, the first thing that pops up in me is that I have to interject and say, well, you should do this, and you should do that, and you should do this, and you should do that. And boy, do I get corrected. I get corrected quite quickly. I don't want to fix it. I just want you to shut up and listen. And it's tough. Let me know in the chat if you feel like it's tough, because it really is sometimes. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be a coworker. It could be a spouse. It could be a friend. Anybody. When they start going down that road and they're just venting, a lot of times we interject ourselves into what's the conversation, and we automatically go, hey, I got the solution to all your problems. And the funny thing is if you look, well, you don't even have to look hard anymore. All you have to do is Google your problem, and everybody has a solution to it, right? So we end up in that same bucket, don't we? Where we think that we can solve everybody's problem. All we have to do is interrupt them and tell them the solution. Not a good thing. Scott Finger says, I've learned to shut up and listen. It's hard. Yes, it is hard. It is hard. And legitimately, sometimes we do have the answer. And we have to allow the other person to let it out. Okay? And I know I'm talking about negative things and everything like that. And we're going to move past that. But when it's something negative, it's a venting situation, and they just need to get it off their chest. I personally believe the worst thing we can do is interrupt that process. Let the other person express everything. Let them have the opportunity to be heard. That I struggle with. I struggle with it. And it's weird that I struggle with it, because when I want to express concerns, grievances, or anything that's on my mind, I expect the person that I'm talking to hear me out. But yet, in retrospect, I struggle with that myself, where sometimes I'm so busy, I want to cut that person off, get to the solution right away, solve that issue, and move forward. And yet we're missing the opportunity. We're missing the opportunity to, number one, allow someone to vent, get it out, put it completely out on the table, and then start the problem-solving process. And I hope I'm making sense. And if I'm not, go ahead. The chat is open. I want you guys to be part of the conversation. And if you're watching this on the replay, I really hope you put it in the comments below. How are you feeling at this process? Do you find yourself that people interject when you're trying to lay it out on the table? Or do you find that you interject too often and try to get to a solution too soon? Angel, welcome. Welcome to the chat. It's not about knowing it all. It's you care. But to truly care, you need to shut yourself down in those moments and absorb what's being told. Yes. I think it's... We have so much knowledge and we have so much to offer. And sometimes we get excited and we get so excited as leaders that, and I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes we can't wait to bring to light an aha moment to somebody else. And timing is everything. Sometimes we do it too soon. Again, allowing the process to happen. Elliot says, I just saw Elliot chime in here. Oh my gosh, the chat's blowing up. Where'd you go, Elliot? My goodness. All right, so I'm going to have to start paying more attention to the chat. Let's see. Well, I guess it got retracted. I don't know. I saw you up there for a second, Elliot. I believe what Elliot said is he learned to ask more questions. And yeah, that's a great opportunity to try to learn more about what the conversation's about. If someone comes to you and they need to be heard, asking questions allows that conversation to continue. But yeah, truly listening. And I want to bring something up. There's real listening and there's fake listening. Here's something I don't like about myself as a leader. And I'm trying to improve on this. So I'm laying it out to you. Many times someone will come to me and I'm really involved in a project. I might be on the computer working on, say an article or a social media piece, and I'm in the moment. And someone starts to discuss an item with me. I will continue doing what I'm doing, and in an inadvertent way, I'm fake listening. Now, Pathway to Leadership, we're a bunch of leaders here, so I'm just being open and honest with you. Can you truly continue working on what you were working on and actually listen to someone else at the same time? If you're in the zone and you're doing that, it's fake listening. And I'm guilty of it. I'm throwing that out there. I've got to reel that in. I've got to stop what I'm doing, make eye contact, and truly learn to listen. And I think a lot of us have fallen into that same trap. And Angel says, I fake listen to my girlfriend. It works. Yeah, okay. All right, buddy. Elliot says, I've learned to ask, would you like me to give you advice? What is it that you would like me to do? I don't always say that, but I do try when I get complaints. Yeah. Okay. So Elliot, you kind of got me on. You got me kind of stuck on something. How to put this? Yes, it is very important that sometimes we ask permission to give advice. And the reason why we're asking permission is because we need to know, is this truly venting? That I just want to be heard. I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to hear it. And then I'm going to walk away. Or am I truly coming to you to work towards a solution? And I think that's really intelligent that you brought that up. Because there is a fine line between someone just, I just need to, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm just going to blow up at you and everything like that. And I'm going to walk away and I'm going to be fine. I got it off my chest. And then there are those that are working on resolution. And so I think asking permission is very important. Good point. I think we'll all benefit from that. And I want to know, and that's only one aspect. I mean, I don't want this video to go into 2, 3, 4 hours, and I know we could do this. We could spend an entire night on this entire subject, but I do want to move it forward. So a lot of times we interject ourselves into things that we shouldn't. One being conversations we shouldn't even be part of. Sometimes we end up in conversations that we have no knowledge about what's going on. And we interject ourselves into those conversations. And we end up acting like a fool, talking like a fool. And I'm sure all of us have had those opportunities. All of a sudden, there's 2 or 3 people talking about something. You pick up on a little bit. You want to be part of the group conversation. You start talking, and then you get the blink. In other words, you're not connecting with the conversation. That was a perfect opportunity to use the power of listening. Listen before interjecting yourself. So listening to the conversation, gathering facts, having something to say. Dale Carnegie has if you ever read his books or listened to some of the Nightingale does a lot of the verbalization of Dale Carnegie. But one of the things he says is a smart man only says things that actually matter. If it's not going to matter, then he's listening and being silent. When he does that, when a person does that, when they do have something to say, then all of a sudden people want to listen. Now that's powerful. So if you don't have anything to say of utter value, then don't say anything at all. Because when you do have something to say of value, then people will tend to want to listen to you. And I think it's an incredible thing. And this is a learning experience for myself. And the more you look into this, it's called the power of listening. And you'll find, if you Google the power of listening, the power of silence. I have another video if you want to go through the library. It's called The Power of Silence, and how important that is. I know I have a sales manager and some salesmen in the chat right now. We know the power of silence. He who talks first loses. And that's so important because people cannot stand the pause. They constantly want to keep the conversation rolling because you know what? We're a society of entertainment. And dead silence is the most awkward thing that you can experience. It's that awkward silence that we're experiencing. So in a closing situation, if you're a salesperson and you get to the close and we say, all you have to do is look over the paperwork and give me your authorization here on the bottom line, and how does everything look to you? That's the point where it gets really awkward. 1 minute, 2 minutes. How long does it take? You know, the true salesperson knows if they open their mouth, they just lost the sale. So, the power of silence is extremely critical in the sales process. And I'll get to that in a minute. Oh, great. All of a sudden, my streaming software wants to try to update, so we'll work through that. Here we go, Elliot. Effective listening is also not waiting for you to turn to speak. Not waiting for your turn to speak. When you're formulating your response in your head while the other person is talking, you're not really listening. Yeah. Okay. Big mistake. And again, I'm guilty of this. Just like what Elliot just said. Formulating your response. If you're formulating a response while the other person is talking, you're not listening. Okay? And it's hard to do that because we're so pressed for time. As leaders, we have an incredible amount of responsibility that we have to attend to on a daily basis. And when people come in, and I don't want you to think of this as an interruption. Well, actually, it is an interruption. It's a good interruption. But sometimes it can be viewed the opposite way. And this is why I like to have these lives so we can have dialogue about this. I'm not saying I have all the answers, and I'm not saying that I'm always right. Okay? Pathway to Leadership is about learning and teaching every day. Learn and teach. So in these lives, it's an opportunity for all of us to learn, including myself. I'm just the host. I'm just bringing the dialogue to light so that we can all chime in and learn together. So as leaders, we can get so caught up in what we're doing, in our responsibilities every day and our obligations, that sometimes we can view listening, stopping what we're doing and listening, as an interruption. And it's tough. I'm not going to say it's not. It is. It's tough. We got a lot of things to do, right? I know I'm not wrong. And we work every day to strive to get better. Yes, I get that. But recognizing that sometimes you have to put the brakes on in order to effectively listen and effectively work through whatever the conversation is. So this can work towards brilliant ideas, conversations about negativity, HR problems. There's a multitude of titles that we can put on the conversation. But the fact is, as leaders, we need to put the brakes on and learn to listen. So I'm going to refer to a couple of my notes over here. So let's go ahead and switch cameras here so I can do that. All right. So learn to say more than what is absolutely, learning to not say more than what's absolutely necessary. Okay. So have you ever been in a situation where you digressed way too much? In other words, you've answered the question, but you just kept going on and on and on. Have you ever heard the term, boy, do they just love to hear themselves speak? They love to hear themselves talk. I came in here, I just asked a simple question, and I got a half an hour, 45-minute dialogue, and ended up walking away more confused than when I walked in there. So we have to avoid doing that. We have to avoid, as leaders, to dialogue more than what is necessary. If you're one of the people that just loves to hear yourself, I'm going to give you a suggestion right now. Record yourself. Start listening to yourself. Look at the technology. I mean, I'm surrounded by technology right now. I've got I've got crazy technology. I mean, I got all of these cameras. Let me show you. I got that camera. I got this camera. I've got this camera. You know, it's amazing when I turn around and I do some of the playbacks and I'm like, oh my God, what were you thinking? You just kept going and going and going. You made your point 10 minutes ago, but you just kept harping and harping and harping. That's a lot of time wasted. And I think a lot of times we do that when someone comes in into the office or asks a question. We complicate the hell out of it by having way too much dialogue. And a lot of things can be answered very simply. A lot of things can be answered very simply if you were listening intently to begin with. So, Elliot says, never happened to me, and I love the emoji. Wonderful. Yeah. No, I mean, it's happened. All the things that I'm talking about happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. There's no doubt. But the key thing is, and I'm going to refer Larry King. Remember the talk show host, Larry King? He simply said that I've never learned anything while I was talking. That's a pretty powerful statement. It's a very simple statement. But I've never learned anything while I was talking. Think about that. How does that work in your world? If you're constantly doing this and you're not doing any of this, well, at the end of the day, the only thing you've got is a sore throat because you've done too much of this. Opening up our ears. Angel says, sure have. You confuse them. You lose them. That's interesting. Scott Finger says, verbal diarrhea, I call it. Forgive the term. No, I'm not going to forgive that term. I like that. I think that's very important. Yeah. You know, so in a service, we used to call it pukeonomy. You know, if you had that instructor, teacher, you want to call them drill instructor or whatever, but, you know, after basic, you'd have these people that would verbally puke on you all day. I mean, it was just carnage of communication. Didn't make sense. It was just they had to say something, so they just kept saying it. And when it came down to questions, they didn't have time for questions. They were too busy talking. So it was very difficult in those situations with those types of people. One of the things that's really tough is when you're in a conversation and there happens to be a pause. Gotcha. That was a little awkward, wasn't it? What's he doing? Is he looking for his notes? Those pauses a lot of times will make us jump in to keep that conversation going. And again, going back to Dale Carnegie, if you ain't got nothing good to say, shut up. Elliot says, determining whether people want to be helpful or just heard is an art that takes a long time to master, if ever. Yeah, of course it does. And you know what, Elliot? I'm gonna chime in on that a little bit more. It depends on the person and how well you know them. We've experienced, and I know a lot of people personally in the chat, we've experienced people that just love to talk. And no matter what, I mean, it could be the as simple as good morning and it ends up in a long conversation. And that's not exactly what I'm talking about. There's conversationalists and there's those that just want to hear themselves talk. But there's no doubt that if you're one of those people that every time there's a pause in the conversation, you have to react and you feel extremely uncomfortable, it's time to mentally take pause and say, should I interject or should I allow the pause to continue? And it's tough. It really is. I mean, it's tough for me. With the channel that I have right now, I've learned so much about dead space. You know, they talk about dead space. Don't have any dead space on your videos. Don't have any pauses. It's very awkward. People want to click off. So I take that as a person that's building a channel on YouTube, and then I have to apply that oppositely in the world where I'm dealing with people on a personal level, because people on a personal level, they need those pauses. Sometimes a person is talking to you, and after they've communicated something to you, they need a pause to digest what they just said. And it's hard to restrain ourselves to say, let them have a moment. I need a moment. Sometimes keeping the conversation is a bad thing. Keeping the conversation rolling is a bad thing. And so a suggestion goes, let's look at the notes again over here. Try becoming part of a conversation on a limited level, and listening more than talking could give you valuable information. So stepping in to a conversation. So say we have team members that we're responsible for, and they're having a conversation. Now, it's an open conversation. It's not private. And you haphazardly stumble across the conversation. There is a technique of injecting yourself into the conversation without being part of that conversation, giving you the opportunity to listen. And that's a skill. Obviously, that's a skill that needs to be learned. It needs to be learned by all of us. I'm getting my cameras all confused here tonight. I'm getting flustered. I love this conversation. Scott Dennis says, so important to wait through the pause, especially if they are emotionally expressing themselves. Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, when you're in a conversation that deals with high emotions, I'm going to tell you right now, STFU. And if you don't know what that acronym means, I'm not going to say it on this video. Google it. STFU. When it has to do with emotions. You have to allow that conversation to happen, even if it's only one-sided. I agree so much. Thank you, Scott, for bringing that up. That is where I have failed personally so many times. I have not allowed that emotional conversation to come to fruition before opening my mouth. You know, a lot of times we open our mouths and get into trouble. That's that Angel says agree that they need to puke it out. Yeah, I don't know how this whole conversation turned into puke, but go ahead. I don't care. And it's funny that we're all talking the same language here. You know, you just gotta get it out. And unless someone's there to listen, it means nothing. It means nothing. And that's a part of leadership. I'm just going to tell you straight up. If you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be a truly effective leader, you have to learn how to shut up and listen. You really do. Because nobody wants to go to someone that has all the answers. I mean, why bother? Why bother going? If I'm just going to go to you and I'm just going to spit out this problem and you're going to give me the answer. I mean, I can do that on Google, right? There's no personal relationship there. And shutting up and listening builds a personal relationship. So here's what's exciting. I will be doing a video very soon about the leader's credit score. You know how we have credit scores? You pay your bills, your credit goes up. You don't pay your bills, your credit goes down. Well, leaders have a credit score also. And one of the big things about having a high credit rating as a leader is the ability to listen. Think about that. The more you listen, the higher your credibility goes. Your credit score goes up. And I can't wait to do that video. That's going to take a little bit of work, a lot of editing, because again, I don't want to come across as the angry leadership program. But I'll tell you what, I'm really passionate about that. What's your beacon score? Can we put it that way? What's your beacon score? And again, I can't stress enough that your beacon score is affected on how well you listen. Scott Finger says, also eye contact. Sympathetic gestures would be natural body language. Yeah, body language, everything. So again, that goes back, Scott Finger, that goes back to what I was talking earlier. If you're in the middle of a project and you're not going to stop that project to actually effectively listen, you're fake listening at that point. What you're communicating at that point is that what you're doing is way more important than what's coming out of that other person's mouth. Okay? Checking your phone in the middle of a conversation. That's crazy. Hey, look, yeah, no, I got you. I got you. Yep, no, I'm just responding to an email real quick. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely. I'll get on that right away. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we had this talk. That is the most disrespectful, fake listening that anyone could do. And what I really hate is, no, I'm listening. Just so you know, I'm listening to every word you're saying. Are you serious? Stop it. Stop it now. Shut up and listen. And I know I'm getting aggravated because it's happened so many times to me. It's happened to me so many times that I'll be talking to CEOs of a company, presidents of a company, general managers, store managers, things like that. And as soon as that phone beeps, that becomes priority. I'm secondary. Oh, my phone beeped. I better check it. Because the world might fall apart in the next 2 seconds. So Scott Finger, I'm glad you brought that up. And yeah, you did touch a nerve. Sorry, folks. But that is a nerve with me. It's a pet peeve. That, if you're really going to give someone the decency to listen to them. Okay? Put that stuff away. Jimmy has joined us. Hey, Jimmy, nice to see you there. Can't stand when people do that. Got on my daughter for doing that. All right. Well, yeah, it's a respect thing. Scott Dennis says, I wonder what my score is. I hope it's high, but not sure. Well, when I put that video together, I think there'll be enough content in there that we can actually rate everybody. Elliot says, the question whether or not I am good at that, as much as I try, it'd be nice to know whether or not I'm good with listening. Well, I hope after tonight, again, everything about Pathway to Leadership is to learn and teach. And that's why I would love for you to hit the thumbs up button. I would love for you to share this with your friends and family. There's a lot of good content on this channel. And it's not just for the few people that show up. Excuse me. It's for everybody. There's so much to be taught and there's so much to learn here as a community. So I really hope that you would share this out. But yes, Elliot, after tonight, the next time that you end up in that situation, because now it's top of mind, okay? Now it's top of mind that you can actually evaluate the next time that you're in that situation. I know I will. One of the best ways to learn something is to teach something. I've learned so much just because I have this channel. Just because of the things that people have said in the chat. Just because of the dialogues we've had on the side after a video goes out. It's amazing how much I've learned. And that's what everything is right here where we are right now, it's all about learning and teaching. Okay? So when you ask yourself, am I a good listener? Well, now it's top of mind. Think about it. Tomorrow, when you're doing whatever you're doing, keep it top of mind. Think about it. Thomas says, phones are the enemy. Yes, they are. We're too preconditioned. As soon as that beep goes off, we have to grab it. Someone posted something on Facebook. Yeah, great. That was wonderful. Can't wait to look at that. What do we got here? Scott Finger says, Scott's coming to Elliot's defense. Elliot's a great listener. So, well, there you go, Elliot. So listen up. Listen to what Scott's saying. Angel says that Scott Dennis's beacon score is really high. Well, we'll find out during that video, won't we? I'm sure we will. We'll dissect that, Scott. We'll see. Elliot says, I'm in that situation more times than I can count every day. Yeah, well, yeah. Elliot, for those that don't know Elliot is pretty high in the organization that he's in right now, so that he has a lot of people chiming in and grabbing his ear. So, yeah, I can definitely respect that. So Elliot says right now that his phone just beeped and he'll be right back. Okay, great. So let's move on. There is no doubt that if you're going to speak, make sure that you have something important to say. And if you're going to say something, make sure it has value. If all that's coming out of your mouth is just dialogue and it doesn't have value, do yourself a favor. Shut up. All right? Well, I mean, on the other hand, if you're paid to just entertain people by talking, well, then that's just great. Why not? You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are paid just to talk. So sometimes we over communicate and say too much. How many people have fallen into that trap? Said too much. Simple yes or no would have sufficed. Simple, you know, this is what it'll take to solve the issue. And we've created such a long dialogue that we've talked ourselves into circles, complete circles. And we've not only confused ourselves, we confused the person that came with us, to us. And yet, at the end of the conversation, we're no better off than where we started. Call it, we went down so many bunny trails that either the person that walked into your office or you yourself have forgotten completely what the original conversation was about. Yeah, that happens a lot. Let's go through a couple of quotes here. Emily Dickinson says, if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. That's a good one. That's a real good one. Don't say anything at all. How about using silence as a power? It's very powerful. We talked about how it can be so powerful in sales, right? He who talks first loses. Well, what if I told you the smartest person in the room is the one that knows how to shut up? Because it makes the other person or people wonder what they're thinking. Isn't that incredible? Wouldn't you love to be that person? There's a whole crowd of people talking and you're the silent one and they're all kind of like trying to measure up. Geez, I wonder what this guy is thinking. I wonder what this person is thinking. Wow, she's being so quiet. Something's going on over there. It now has become the power of silence. And I encourage you to look that up. There are so many great people, and I can't name them all tonight, And I'm not even going to put all of their links in the comment in the description, because it'd be ridiculous. It's such a long list. Just Google it. The power of silence. It's incredible. So think about this. If you're confronted on a decision that you've made, if you're in an uncomfortable situation of dialogue or something like that, being silent can be the most defensive, offensive, mysterious thing that you can do. You all of a sudden became a superpower. You made a superpower out of silence, saying nothing. Is that exciting? I find it exciting. I've used it a few times myself. Kind of scares me. Actually, kind of scared other people. Why aren't you saying anything? Well, I don't have anything to say. I'm absorbing everything that you're saying. I'm absorbing everything that she's saying. I'm absorbing everything that that person's saying. And I haven't come to a conclusion yet. What? Wow. What do you mean you haven't come to a conclusion? We've all come to a conclusion. Well, I don't have enough information yet. I'm not ready to come to a conclusion. I'm just going to sit here and be silent and absorb everything that you're talking about. That'll drive people crazy, wouldn't it? Why isn't he talking? What's going on? Wow. It's powerful. If we learn to use it correctly, it is one of the biggest superpowers as a leader that we could ever have. We just got to learn to use it. I'm learning every day how and when to use the power of silence. Another wonderful quote is, "A wise man once said, nothing." That's pretty crazy, huh? A wise man once said nothing. Oh, sometimes we over-communicate and say too much. Silence empowers you after everyone's done talking. You now have all the facts to offer your response. And the great pause that you can have is even more powerful, because we sometimes jump into our response because of our ego, and we're so excited that we have the answer. Try this the next time. If you're in a group setting and everybody at the table is talking about a problem that they're having, and you have the solution, try to hold back giving that solution and allow that silence to happen. I think you'll be amazed. And I've tried it, and I've had it done where I was one of the people at the table, and a leader of mine did this very same thing. Let's take a moment. Let's digest everything that we've talked about, and I'll start my conversation. Hey, look at that. My phone dinged. Who could it be? So, oh, actually, you know what? Thank you, Elliot. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. My overhead cam. I guess my overhead cam is chopping out, so I'll try to avoid that one. So yeah, try that pause. That pause, I think you will find, would be very powerful when in that group setting. And if you're the person, the leader that everybody's talking to and is looking for direction, having that pause before giving your response could be very powerful, and you're going to gain more attentive listening at that point. You see, we sometimes jump to the conclusion way too fast. Let me see if I can catch up on some of these chats. Let's see. Elliot says, in all seriousness, it's difficult at times to really listen When at any moment someone calls or enters your office right in the middle of something, it's hard. Sometimes I'll ask them to come back. Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Ask them to come back when you can give them your undivided attention, of course. When you tell them, I want to be able to focus on your conversation, and right now I can't, let's make some time to sit down and talk. That's another option to listen well and give them your attention. Yes. Yes. And in as long as it's quick, though. Okay, because sometimes it's the heat of the moment, and that's good and bad, if that makes sense. So if it's a heat of the moment conversation that needs to happen right away, sometimes giving them a cool off will give the other person a chance to digest what's going on and come up with a good thought process. And then if it's too long, then it could be looked at as avoidance. So, yeah, there's a fine line there. Again, it's all about learning. We learn. And it's all about the person that we're dealing with also. That's why it's so important to, as leaders, we have to be able to create a relationship with everybody that's on our team. We have to understand how they communicate. Because it's not about us. We have to understand how they communicate, how they feel, what's important, what's not important. Okay? That's not easy. Because if it was, everybody would be a leader. We would just be born leaders. Huh. Heard that before. It's actually not true. But no. Leadership is a skill that is learned and taught. Learned and taught. And that's what we're doing here on Pathway to Leadership. Every day is a learning opportunity. Scott Dennis says, just make sure to follow through and not to forget. Get back with them, because if you don't, a lot of damage can occur. I know, because I have done that myself. Yes, it's very situation specific. Judgment is needed on when to use that method. Yeah, well, absolutely. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with saying that, hey, give me a moment. I want to give you my uninterrupted focus. There's nothing wrong with that ever. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, let me finish this real quick. And I want to sit down with you. Okay? I'm just saying that in many cases, and I think Scott Dennis brought that up for a reason too, in other certain organizations, it's, I'm going to get with you, and you get blown off. That's awful. And then, it's like, is this guy even taking me serious? So I see both sides of that. And yes, Elliot, it is very situational specific. And again, it's a learning thing. We learn and we teach, and we learn and we teach. And I'm going to put another, this is going to sound weird. Part of the teaching method as a leader is we have to teach the people that are on our team how to communicate with us. I know it's not all about us. Okay? But we're all different. There's no perfect leader out there. There's certain communication styles as leaders that we respond to differently, and we will respond to better in this way and that way. So sometimes we have to teach our team how to communicate to us so that communication becomes effective. When we neglect that, that's where a breakdown can happen also. If that makes sense to you. Because it's really important that how that line of communication goes, you set the ground level. Okay, the ground rules. If you have a grievance, you might say that I would like you to come to me personally and sit down and talk about this. If it's something about a standard operating procedure or something like that, you may say that, if, in that case, this is something that you need to email me. If it's this or that, you should text me. You should pick up the phone and call me. You should make an appointment for this. As leaders, we should be setting some of the ground rules on how to communicate with us so that we can effectively keep that line of communication open with all of our team members. And if we're not doing that, that's where a lot of confusion comes in, or frustration. Stop calling me about these simple things that could be just an email. If you don't set those ground rules, then your team members are just going to communicate with you any way they feel comfortable with, and hoping that it'll be effective for you. I agree with you, John. The more you know your people, the more you know how to communicate and listen. When I speak with people, each one is very different depending on the person and circumstances. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everybody is growing and developing. I hope everybody's growing and developing, because as a leader, that's your job, right? That's your number one focus, is to help develop yourself and others every single day. Learn and teach, learn and teach, learn and teach. I mean, it's the founding principle of Pathway to Leadership, learn and teach. And we do that on a daily basis. Well, I think we're coming to a close. It's getting close to our hour. I don't want to take up any more of your time. This was a great dialogue this evening. I'm really excited. Hey, you know what? There's a few things down in the description below. Go ahead and take a look. There's a few books in there. There's the Leadership Corner, the Leadership Store, some other interesting things. So go ahead and take a look in the description below. And if you got anything out of this video tonight, please hit that thumbs up. That thumbs up pushes this video to more of people out there in YouTube land, and it really helps promote the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And again, sharing this video helps you do exactly what Pathway to Leadership is for. It's for learning and teaching. And by sharing the channel, you're helping other people learn. And hopefully they'll learn something from these videos and these live communications, and they'll teach. So let's spread the word. All right, leaders, I will see you next time on Pathway to Leadership.